Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby here with the star of Lempicka. It's Eden Espinosa. And this role, you've kept us waiting for a while because this is your first time back on Broadway in 16 years. And I'm just curious, what really makes this the right show and the right character for you to return with?
Oh, that's a great question. I was fortunate enough early on in my career to have worked pretty consistently and with some well-known shows, with the exception of Brooklyn, which was my first and only Broadway originating role. Um, and, through the years, as I've, had the opportunity to be a part of other amazing, world premieres at reputable regional houses and stuff, I sort of just really got to sift through the type of material that lit me up inside and that would make it um worth pouring so many years of time for very little money, um and excitement and disappointment of, are we going, are we not, oh, we're getting another lab, okay, great. It's a very emotionally trying experience, gratifying for sure, but I just over time knew the things that I wanted to be a part of and the types of material that, again, like, I call it like maybe carbonated inside of my heart. And so Lempicka was just something that I knew it was special. I knew I wanted to see it through to whatever end. And I knew I was meant to be a part of it.
Yeah. And this character, I mean, you're no stranger to a vocally demanding role, but this is a huge, huge thing.
Mhm.
There's a lot happening in this score, which is beautiful. I think one of my favorite songs is "Woman Is," which is this awesome moment of self-discovery for the character, which must be so exciting. But the notes, like when you first got that song, did it scare you? How do you prepare for that number to make that doable 8 times a week?
Yeah. I mean, it for me, it has to be rooted in the moment. Of course, like you listen to the song and you're like, I'm sorry, what is that? Like, you want me to do what? And I had known it and heard it long before I was a part of it, because I was a fan of Matt and I had seen many readings and iterations of the show before I was involved. And for me as the singer, if I'm for 1 second not connected to the intention, then I get in my head about how hard it is. And of course, I've had to, um, with today's marketing for shows, putting the music out ahead of time, especially a show that isn't based on a book or a movie or a catalog of music. Um, there's I do I At the beginning of our previews, I had moments of, oh God, I hope people aren't going to be disappointed, or I hope like they're coming because they're excited about the song and it's their time hearing it live, and I hope they know I'm a human being, and but I got over that quickly, and it doesn't really plague me that often. But it is very difficult. The entire show is, it's span. I've had a lot of people ask me, is Elphaba harder or is Tamara harder? And I say tomorrow's harder because I'm significantly older than when the last time I played Alphaba, but also it doesn't stick into, the Alphaba range is actually a wide range as well, but it's within a range, and like I feel like Tamara's is like double the size. And so you can never totally get comfortable because you're utilizing every part of your range at some point or another in the show. So it definitely keeps me on my toes. But I would say I'm in the best I'm coming up on some of the best shape vocally that I've been in a very long time. And I kind of have to be. So
Yeah, and I mean, not only vocal range for this role, but you cover such a range in terms of her life. I think it
mhm.
goes from teenage years into her old age,
Yeah.
really, like at the top of the show. And there's so many ways you can think about that physically and vocally. How do you kind of chart that journey for her?
Yeah. I think that, with Rachel and the way that Rachel approaches theater and her vision, when we knew that this was going to be a part of the story, um, the going into the old lady so much, and we weren't going to use any wigs, makeup, prosthetics, anything like that to
Right.
really help. Like, fortunately, I had been through enough in my career. I had done um, I studied 2 years at the William Esper Studio. I'd also done a lot of voiceover work, and I knew how to build a character for that without needing that extra makeup and prosthetics. So I knew it would have to be a physicality. I knew it would have to be the vocal quality. Um, and so it's two of my favorite moments in the show, actually. I love spending time as old Tamara. Um, and I love the, transforming into from old to young, that first few moments, because I take the time to craft the little mannerisms and the way that I use my voice and how it would be. And oddly enough, I saw The Notebook yesterday, and something that I was so taken with was all three couples towards the end of the show, and hearing where their vocal quality was in their lives, just as a younger, as a middle age, and it just wrecked me in the most beautiful way. So um yeah, so that's how I approached those moments. But
Yeah. And she, I mean, I think you need all of her ages in this show because she has such a fascinating life at every stage of her
mm,
life, really, which I didn't know much about before I saw this. But is there one aspect of her life or her history that really resonates to you that you think shows up a lot in your performance?
the thing that's, over the years we have come to learn that Tamara told a lot of versions of the truth, in order to survive for so many things, her age, where she was from, if she was Jewish or not, her sexuality. And my heart, like, really, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for somebody that felt like they needed to do that in order to survive or get ahead, or even dip their toe into a field or a profession. And so, but the thing about it's, when I'm really diving into this iteration and this time around, is the drive and the hunger that she has. Um, that can oftentimes be too much for a woman to inhabit or display. And um and so I think that is something different this time around than any other iteration that I've done, that I'm really making space for that and not apologizing for it, or not worried that the audience is going to not like her because of it.
And you have been with this for very long, for a long time with its development over many
Mhm.
years. I feel like if I was in that place, I would be worried about like bringing out old lines, old lyrics from other iterations. Is that a worry? How do you deal with, the changes of a piece over time?
It's funny because you you spend so much time with something as the actor. You're not as in it as the writers or the creative team. Like, yes, everybody's tired at tech and we're all there all day and we do the show at night and we're implementing changes, but like the actor gets to go home and like turn their brain off. Whereas I feel like the creatives, they don't get to turn their brain off until the show is completed and frozen in the way that they envisioned it. And so I feel like it is a separate, you are separated enough to know when something really feels right, like a change is really right, or is like, we haven't quite found it yet. And luckily this creative team is super collaborative with us and trusts us immensely. But my brain actually handles changes very, very well. But the other night, the last show of the week, this last week, and we're nearing the end of our previews and we're being frozen. Oops.
Oh,
Sorry. I didn't do my, so sorry about that.
no.
Um, gonna be frozen soon. So the other night I just said lines that were, from rehearsal studio, some like of in and some of these changes are very micro. Like Carson, who I adore, is her, the attention to detail in one word can make a huge difference for her as the writer. So sometimes they're very micro changes that are sometimes hard to grasp. But I was literally like, why did I just say the line like that? We haven't said it like that in 2 months. Like, so that just started to happen. I think because of fatigue a little bit.
I think that's understandable. It's a busy process.
Yeah,
Um, and you get, I really loved the moments that you get to sing with both Amber Iman and Andrew Samansky, who play her two lovers here, who bring out such different sides of the character. I think.
yeah,
What was it like playing that? Because she, in a way, she is like kind of asking to be treated as a man at this time with these two.
yeah. It is an interesting dance to play both sides of like the gender norms, and how Tamara on one end with her husband is, starts out very much the typical like wife and wants to like throw dinner parties and have this lush thing, but as she has to start to um make money for her family, there's there's things that come with that obviously upset, and her husband has to deal with. But then when she finds this muse, this woman who turns her world upside down, it's also taking on that caretaker role. Like, I want to provide for you, I want to take care of you, I want you to be there when I want you to be there. And it's very complicated and nuanced, and it's really fun to try and um find that balance. I've never experienced that in my life, but it's odd. uh, I've had people talk to me about their lives at the stage door. Like,
Yeah.
I've been the wife and I've been the lover, and I've never felt more seen, and I've never felt like I've seen anything that describes it. So I was just like, wow, that's very personal to share with me, and I'm honored. Like, so I just love that the show is covering so much ground and really diving into possibly uncomfortable um through lines for people, but
Yeah,
it's
well,
fun.
I'm sure you've had many stories shared with you over the years at stage doors, because I mean, I don't think it's a hyperbole to say like Wicked and Rent are two of the biggest Broadway shows of all time that you've been a part of. Now that you're years removed from those experiences, how do you think being part of like those legacies shaped how you approached your career?
um it's it's an awesome synergy of moments, because it's like when I was coming up in this industry was right when the internet was blowing up, in the sense of like chat rooms and YouTube and bootlegs and all of this kind of stuff. And people knowing who you were and being your fan for having never seen you live ever, but like, so it's it's beautiful. And I am forever grateful to be a part of both of those shows, and they're such flagpoles of of honor in my career. And it's really been beautiful, this with Lempicka and our previews, and meeting people at the stage door and just saying like, you were my first Alphaba 20 years ago, you were my first Alphaba 15 years ago in LA, and I've been waiting for to come back and see you live. We made a special trip just to see, it's just like, whoa. They show me a picture of them, and they're like 7 years old, and now they are a full blown adult, and like telling me how I impacted their, it's just like it's a beautiful reminder when you are bogged down with changes and previews and press. It's just a beautiful reflection of why we got into this in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's like to me looking at it, there's kind of like a synergy between Elphaba and Maureen and now Lempicka of like these really larger than life women that you've
Mm,
played who are not afraid to really forge their own path and go their own way in a world that, says no sometimes. They just don't
yeah,
care. What is it
yeah.
like? It seems like those parts kind of gravitate towards you. What is it the most satisfying aspect of playing a woman like that?
Well, now looking like as you were saying that, I was looking back at the different times in my life that I've played these different characters, and I think the most satisfying thing is relating to these people at these different points in my life and letting it influence my life and expand me as a human. Um, because each of those characters taught me so much, and to have a character um at 46 years old coax me to be bigger in my life, to ask for more, to advocate for myself, to not be ashamed of wanting something so much and going for it and not apologizing for it. Um, that is that is just a gift. And I went through that with Elphaba through the 7 years of me playing her. Every time I went back, I was a different person. And so I sort of feel like that I don't know if every actor does that. But for me, that is the key connector between me and these characters whenever I approach a character. So
Yeah, well, it's really wonderful to have you back here in New York, back on the boards.
thanks,
So
Sam.
congratulations on a great job in Lempicka. And if you're
Thank
here in
you.
New York, please go see it and please stick with Gold Derby the rest of this season. Thank you, Eden.
Yay. Thank you.